in smoke. In the wake of the huge tobacco damage award, doubts that it will stand up on appeal. Tobacco farmers rotating their crops in the face of the changing legal climate. Image problem for Philadelphia. Does one picture really tell the city's full story? And a television news milestone, Walter Cronkite's golden on-air anniversary.
This is the CBS Evening News with Russ Mitchell.
And good evening. The smoke has yet to clear and the fallout could go on for years from yesterday's record jury verdict in Florida. More than $145 billion in damages against the cigarette industry. Lawyers are going to be back in court Monday for the next phase of the battle. The companies say they can't pay the bill. Opponents say they can, and they must. Randall Pinkston begins our coverage.
$36,280,000,000.
In the history of American courts, no judge had ever read numbers like these from a jury's verdict.
$790 million. A lot of zeros.
In all, enough zeros to equal nearly $146 billion in punitive damages that tobacco companies are supposed to pay for deceiving and harming Florida smokers.
We believe this is a horribly flawed procedure.
Defense attorneys quickly claimed the award was the work of a runaway jury.
If and when there ever came a day that the verdict had to be paid, there's absolutely no question it would put every one of these 5 companies out of business 10 times over.
Staggering jury verdicts have become part of the legal landscape, but the one the jury issued at a Miami courthouse this week is in a class by itself, exceeding, for example, the amount of federal money spent on health last year. And it's 14 times the previous punitive damage record, the $10.3 billion judgment Pennzoil won against Texaco. It's 29 times larger than the $5 billion judgment against Exxon for the Alaska oil spill. Exxon is still fighting its case, and Texaco's penalty was substantially reduced. CBS legal analyst Andrew Cohen predicts Big Tobacco will also get a break.
These sorts of judgments generally are reduced somewhat by first the trial judge and then by the appellate process. The whole appellate process is designed to whittle down these sorts of judgments.
But an analyst who proposed the staggering verdict insists Big Tobacco can pay whatever the amount.
This is an industry that prints money. They have an ability to pay enormous amounts of money because they take in enormous amounts of money.
This case may hold more symbolic significance than financial, a chilling reminder to corporate defense lawyers that juries won't hesitate to punish big business. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, Miami.
Tobacco, of course, is not just a cash cow for cigarette companies. It's also a cash crop for tens of thousands of American farmers. And just as the government is trying to wean smokers from cigarettes, some states are trying to wean growers from tobacco. Lee Cowan has been looking into that.
In the tobacco fields of southern Maryland, farmers are lamenting the end of an era.
Look around this field. To me, and beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, I don't think that there's a prettier crop in the field than tobacco.
Tobacco's been part of my life ever since I can remember, and it's going to be a certain loss, I guess, when we stop raising it, if we stop raising it.
For nearly 400 years, tobacco has been dependable and profitable. Now many consider it despicable, an unfashionable crop feeding an unpopular industry.
These are hard-working men and women. I love the farmers, but I hate the tobacco industry.
So Maryland's governor is taking an unprecedented step. For the next 10 years, the state will pay farmers not to grow what they've grown for generations and start looking for other crops instead. The money will come out of a $4 billion settlement Maryland already reached with the tobacco companies.
For those farmers like myself that sadly realize that tobacco production is doomed, this gives us some hope.
But to everyone's surprise, 90% of Maryland's tobacco farmers said they're interested in cashing in, twice as many as expected. Tobacco farmer Alan Swan has already turned over most of his tobacco fields to other crops. But tobacco is what pays the bills, and he's worried he'll have nothing to fall back on if the state money runs out.
You could get a payment for a year, 2 years, 3 years, then the money could dry up, and you would be left without a crop, without a payment.
The governor promises that won't happen.
I will make sure that we pay for that no matter what, because we cannot leave those farmers caught in the middle.
But the reality for Maryland farmers is no matter how successful they are with peaches or corn, there is still nothing that made money like tobacco. Lee Cowan, CBS News, Washington.
In Philadelphia, local and federal investigations are underway in the police beatings of a carjacking suspect this week. The NAACP is calling for criminal charges and civil lawsuits against the police who took part. Jim Axelrod reports the videotaped beating comes as the city hoped to reshape its national image.
These are the pictures they wanted to be showing right about now in Philadelphia. Final preparations for the Republican convention. Then these pictures came along.
30 seconds, for the most part, of a 21-minute incident has caused questions to be raised about our readiness to host the Republican National Convention.
The convention was supposed to showcase the new Philadelphia, the history, the restaurants, the cleaned-up streets. The visitors were to focus on Renaissance, not rage.
I'm not as depressed about it as you might expect.
David Cohn, co-host of the city's convention committee, speaks for many here when he says one rerun video can't rewrite history.
I don't think that even this very disturbing 20 seconds of videotape is going to wipe out all those positive images.
But there is no question this tape evokes disturbing memories for some here. A former police chief, then mayor, who carried a billy club in his tuxedo coat. The deadly police bombing of a house of radicals. That's also history in Philadelphia.
Late 60s and early 70s, there was an atmosphere that in Philadelphia that the police were free to basically do anything they wanted to do.
They haven't forgotten that history in some parts of Philadelphia, parts that won't get such prominent exposure in 2 weeks. Here, the memories triggered by the videotape beating are not so easily obscured by the convention's bright lights.
Where y'all going?
But Vernal Sims, a minister in the largely poor and working-class neighborhoods of North Philadelphia, says the convention has his flock looking forward as well to thousands of new hotel jobs moving people off welfare. Many people around this country and at this point around the world see this videotape and say that's Philadelphia.
That's correct. And we want people to know that that is not Philadelphia.
He was shot multiple times.
Clearly, Reverend Sims doesn't speak for everyone here. But at the end of a rough week, many share his thoughts. Don't look at one tape and expect a whole city's full story. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, Philadelphia.
Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, a deadly tornado at a Canadian campground. Also, Jewish settlers battle Palestinians on the West Bank. And the Navy pilot who still lives in his widow's heart.
You are absolutely gorgeous. Yes, you are. Oops. He's not going to like that. Perfect. Now tell me this isn't the finest crop you've ever seen.
Why don't you go next?
For the best flakes, we only accept the best corn. Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Love at first sight. What's that based on? Have you ever looked at someone and said, check her out, she looks loyal? Or, whoa, look at the morals on that guy. No, love at first sight is based on something else. Sight.
I see you, baby. Taking it there.
The 2000 Mitsubishi Eclipse, nicely equipped at 17.7. You'll even love what's on the inside.
Do you know what your day is going to be like? I don't. So if I get constipated, I rely on Metamucil. Its 100% natural fiber treats my body gently, unlike my job.
Metamucil. For irregularity, it's the doctor's natural choice.
If it isn't purple, it isn't Prilosec. Isn't it Prilosec time for you? Ask your doctor about the purple pill they call Prilosec.
Canadian officials say at least 9 people are dead and more than 130 injured by a tornado in Alberta. Rescue workers dug through the debris of the Green Acres campground in Pine Lake today, searching for more survivors. A tornado took just 20 minutes to wreck the camp for RVs last night, then touched down on the opposite side of the lake, destroying a dozen homes there. Violence broke out between Jews and Arabs in the West Bank today as Israeli and Palestinian leaders spent a 5th day with President Clinton at Camp David. The peace conference has sparked fears as well as hopes in the Mideast, as correspondent David Hawkins reports.
They say it started with a kiss. Orthodox Jewish settlers in the West Bank city of Hebron erupted in riot today when an Arab man tried to kiss a teenage Jewish girl, according to the Israeli army. But the Palestinians say the settlers started it, throwing rocks and bottles at them because they were disturbing the Sabbath. The Palestinians accused the settlers, who oppose a peace deal at Camp David, of inciting the violent clashes in hopes of ruining the peace talks. About a dozen Palestinians were injured, including a journalist. Israeli soldiers and policemen eventually separated the two sides, arresting 5 Palestinians and 2 settlers. But elsewhere on the West Bank, Israelis and Palestinians gathered to show support for the peacemaking efforts of their leaders at Camp David. And in Tel Aviv, pro-peace activists took to the streets in their cars. A convoy for peace, they called it. A majority of Israelis and Palestinians want peace and hope for the best from Camp David. But the talks have heightened fears on the West Bank, bringing out the worst in settlers and some Arabs who fear that if an agreement is reached, they'll be the losers. David Hawkins, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
In Cuba, Fidel Castro met Elian Gonzalez for the first time to congratulate him on finishing his first-grade studies. Castro gave the 6-year-old former refugee a book by Cuban independence hero Jose Marti, saying he could read it in a few years. There is more to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, why high gas prices are only the beginning. And later, Walter Cronkite reveals the truth about his rocky first television broadcast at CBS News.
In clinical studies, a leading pain medicine significantly reduced minor arthritis pain, increasing range of motion and flexibility. You may be surprised. The medicine in these studies wasn't a pill. It was Bengay. And now, when you use ultra-strength Bengay for your aches and pains, you get the heating power of 3 pain relievers to help you feel better and move better. Ultra-strength Bengay, medicine for your moving parts.
I'm 64. Is there anything I can do to stop bone loss?
Absolutely. Here's proof. In a landmark clinical study, Caltrate actually stopped bone loss in women at risk for osteoporosis, whatever your age.
It's never too late for Caltrate.
Discover Celebrex. For more information, ask your healthcare professional and call 1-888-CELEBREX.
In hospital pharmacies, they dispense medicines that work fast. For heartburn, that's 1-minute Maalox.
It goes to work on stomach acid in 1 minute. Pepcid AC could take over 45 minutes.
Hospital pharmacies rely on Maalox. Shouldn't you?
Count on 1-minute Maalox.
No, this isn't a jeans commercial. It's about constipation. You're bloated, not yourself. Your size 10s feel like 2s.
FiberCon has natural fiber action to relieve bloating constipation.
I'm myself again.
FiberCon, be regular, be yourself.
Let's be honest. There's really no such thing as a gracious winner. You might say things like nice game or shake your opponent's hand. But no matter how humble you are on the outside, deep down on the inside, you're saying, I'm better than you are. The Mitsubishi Galant, ranked the #1 family sedan under 20 grand by Car and Driver. Better than Accord or Camry. Boy, we just love saying that.
Catch Tiger Woods. Last year, Sergio Garcia gave it his best shot. This year, Tiger defends his title at the PGA Championship on CBS.
Saudi Arabia has increased its production of oil, part of a plan to reduce fuel prices worldwide. An OPEC official says the Saudis began pumping more oil this week, but he did not say by how much. Jacqueline Adams reports there are new warnings about the future.
It's a roller coaster ride at the gas pump. After rising nearly 12% at the wholesale level in June, prices at the pump in some places are already down.
In Chicago and Milwaukee area, where they had ramped up quite a bit to over $2 a gallon, they've dropped as much as 36 cents in the past few weeks.
Still, across the country, gasoline, natural gas, and home heating oil prices are on the rise. Why? Supplies are short, no one's conserving, and critics charge Washington has no plan.
The gig is up. And unless we both increase supply and moderate demand, we're going to have real trouble that's going to throw the prosperity of our economy into jeopardy.
Don't count on OPEC. The cartel's president was in Iraq today saying now is not the time to increase production. And don't count on Congress. Though federal taxes make up 18.4 cents of every gallon of gasoline, the Senate this week refused to suspend those taxes. And don't accuse the oil industry of price gouging. Presidential candidate Al Gore tried that.
I think it's outrageous. And I think that big oil may have gotten too big.
But industry executives are thrilled that the Department of Energy doesn't accuse them of gouging in its analysis of Midwest price hikes.
We're disappointed with politicians who have chosen to do that, and they should, quite frankly, apologize.
Forget about apologies. Instead, worry about cold weather. This year, oil companies haven't been able to do what they normally do in summer, prepare for winter, like stockpiling home heating oil and natural gas. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, Washington.
There is stormy weather in space this evening. A giant flare erupted from a spot on the sun, sending charged particles streaming through space in our direction. There are warnings the geomagnetic storm could knock out radio transmissions and power grids this weekend. Coming up next in the CBS Evening News, Walter Cronkite, now and then. And later, everybody has a story, a widow's dream for a big family.
How does your gray beard or mustache reflect on you?
Man, I look old.
Get new vitamin-enriched Just for Men Gel, the Rejuvenator, specially made to penetrate coarse gray in 5 minutes and match your hair. The Rejuvenator, Just for Men Gel.
I don't have to worry about my dentures slipping. When I use Super Polygrip, I can eat apples, I can eat corn, hard rolls, you name it. Super Polygrip lasts all day long, even through dinner. I thought I would never be able to eat another apple again when I got my dentures. Thanks to Super Polygrip, I don't have that problem.
I just bought every overnight laxative I could find.
Why?
To prove nothing's gentler than Phillips Milk of Magnesia. X-Lax, Senecot, every one of these others contains stimulants. That one says on the label it may cause abdominal discomfort, faintness, and cramps. Phillips is the only one that's stimulant-free. Nothing's more effective, nothing's safer. Does that explain everything?
Yeah, except who's taking these back?
Oh.
Phillips, safe, effective relief without stimulants.
Love at first sight. What's that based on? Have you ever looked at someone and said, check her out, she looks loyal? Or, whoa, look at the morals on that guy. No, love at first sight is based on something else. Sight.
I see you, baby. Take it in there.
The 2000 Mitsubishi Eclipse, nicely equipped at 17.7. You'll even love what's on the inside.
Only one can be the best. To get there takes strength, speed, and endurance.
One athlete's foot medicine has it all. Lamisil AT.
Strength.
Full prescription strength to stop the itching and burning.
Speed.
These take 4 weeks of treatment. Lamisil AT cures it with just one.
Endurance.
3 months later, you're still athlete's foot free.
Game over.
The official athlete's foot treatment of the NBA, Lamisil AT. The best way to cure athlete's foot.
Presidential candidates Ralph Nader and Pat Buchanan on Campaign 2000. Face the nation with Bob Schieffer Sunday.
Television history was made 50 years ago today when a newly hired journalist made his first appearance on CBS News. His name, of course, is Walter Cronkite. Walter's years behind the anchor desk and his spare moments on the open sea are tonight's Weekend Perspective. Now, your wife was telling me you had one boat. You went out to buy a smaller boat, but you came back with a bigger boat.
Well, we've been doing that for 40 years.
At a youthful 83, Walter Cronkite is still larger than life. These days, you'll probably find him on his beloved boat or hosting a television special. But this is how most of us remember him.
Good evening. This is the now free American.
We could concentrate on trying to inform. There was no effort to entertain.
Walter Cronkite was a veteran war reporter when he was hired by CBS News in the summer of 1950. Before long, he was on the anchor desk. His first broadcast came on a Sunday night. Is it true that first night of doing the evening news on Sunday, you mispronounced your name?
Yeah, I certainly did. Everything was absolutely perfect. And finally, they did the final commercial. I said, I'll be back in a moment. I came back and said, so this is Walter Cronkite saying good night.
Through the years, Walter Cronkite was on the front lines of some of the most important stories of the 20th century. There was November 22nd, 1963.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
And his passionate coverage of the space program.
The Eagle has landed.
Boy.
Okay, we're going to be busy for a minute.
I can remember Apollo 11 when the Eagle landed. My father worked at a defense contractor in St. Louis that helped build, I guess, the Saturn V rocket.
Yeah.
And when the Eagle landed, he had a twinkle in his eye. And I watched you on TV when the Eagle landed. You had that same twinkle. What was it about the space program that was so close to you?
Well, of course, it was first of all, it was the major accomplishment. And particularly those of us, such as your father, have been working in it, those of us covering it, and I covered it from the very beginning. It was the sense of accomplishment after so much had gone into it, so much concern, so much doubt, to finally accomplish that incredible breakthrough was an emotional moment.
Walter Cronkite anchored the CBS Evening News from 1962 to 1981.
This is but a transition, a passing of the baton. A great broadcaster and gentleman, Doug Edwards, preceded me in this job, and another, Dan Rather, will follow.
I give him a tip of the Stetson and a big salute for staying power. But to have staying power and to have it with excellence and quality is a tremendous monument to Walter Cronkite.
The man who became known as the most trusted man in America also has a great sense of humor.
A nice little old lady came up to me and she said, did anybody ever tell you that you look just like Walter Cronkite looked before he died?
Oh, boy.
I turned away to keep from laughing, and she said, except I think he was thinner.
In a congratulatory message, CBS News President Andrew Hayward says Walter Cronkite's efforts helped build and shape CBS News as a top-notch broadcast journalism operation, and we all owe a huge debt of gratitude to him.
Who's asking about Viagra? Someone you might expect, and also someone that maybe you wouldn't. In fact, you may be surprised at who's talking to their doctors about Viagra. So ask your doctor if a free trial of Viagra is right for you. Who's asking about Viagra? Maybe it should be you.
Get the whole grain goodness of Quaker oatmeal. Toasted. Quaker toasted oatmeal. Crisp honey sweet flakes with crunchy oat clusters. It's the same Quaker oatmeal, only toasted. Get the whole grain goodness of Quaker oatmeal. Toasted. Quaker toasted oatmeal squares. Crisp, crunchy squares with a hint of brown sugar. It's the same Quaker oatmeal, only toasted.
This summer, in a special multimedia event, the Publishers Clearinghouse Prize Patrol will surprise someone with $1 million.
Oh, my goodness.
It'll all happen live on TV
I can't believe
and
it.
at PCH.com this August 24th.
Yes!
Watch your mail or go to PCH.com. Enter. And on August 24th, the winner could be you.
Just when you think you have the latest computer, you don't. But with the YourWare program, you can trade it in toward the purchase of a new one after 2 years. For $28 a month, get a Gateway Essential PC with an Intel Celeron processor and a year of AOL included. Call 1-800-GATEWAY.
Should the Japanese pay American prisoners of war who were used as slave labor? Your government says no. See what you think. Monday on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
For the latest medical news and information, visit our health website, cbshealthwatch.com.
Finally this evening, some love stories never end, even when tragedy strikes. That's what Steve Hartman found in Michigan, where the romance has continued for 5 decades, proving once again that everybody has a story.
The day I arrived in Grand Rapids, Michigan, it was warm and sunny. Here's the one. But that didn't stop the chill down my spine. When I found out, I'd pointed to a man, Thomas, the last name is Jansen, who's been dead 48 years.
I remember saying, I love you more than you love me, and he said, oh no, I love you more than you love me. It was just so sweet, really. He was very dear.
Helen Jansen still has her husband's name in the phone book. Yep. Still has his ring on her finger. Willful reminders of a marriage that lasted barely a year. They were still just setting up house, hoping to start a big family.
I looked out the bay window and I saw 2 cars pull up at my house. I can remember it, to this day. And one was a priest and one was 2 men from the base, and they had a thermos of coffee. And so they told me.
Thomas Jansen was a Navy pilot. He was flying a helicopter like this one when the tail rotor broke. This is the flag from his funeral. And how ironic that on the very day she buried her husband.
That's the first day I felt life. That morning I did.
You felt the kick.
Mm-hmm.
Although they had told no one, Helen was 4 months pregnant when her husband died.
And I was raised by my mother all those years.
Thomas Jansen II is now 47, and although his mother never remarried, she never gave up her dream for a big family either. Really wanted grandchildren. Until Tom and his wife Shirley found out they couldn't have kids.
Best boy.
Then last year, on her birthday, her son handed her a card. And at the bottom, it was signed Tom, Shirley, and then there were these 2 question marks. And Helen thought to herself, well, that's an odd way to sign a birthday card.
And right now I have goosebumps thinking about it. Hi there. Not just that I'm going to be a grandmother. You came to see Grandma? But it just, they've got some little children, who need a home.
Meet question mark number 1.
What are you doing?
4-year-old Catalin.
Where's Daddy?
Tom and Shirley adopted him and his older brother Andre from a Romanian orphanage.
Yeah.
When your mom first met the kids, what was that like?
Just grabbed onto them and hardly let go.
In the 7 months since,
I'm on the hill, I'm coming down. Whoa!
the boys have learned every English phrase a kid needs to know.
Do it again. That's not yours. We mine.
Especially the ones you use on Grandpa's.
Grandma's making some cookies.
The love they give you, I tell you, is just overwhelming sometimes. They just want to kiss you, and they give you a Romanian kiss.
It isn't at all the family she imagined 50 years ago. But in many ways, it is finally the family she always dreamed of.
You got to say goodbye to Grandma.
Steve Hartman, CBS News, Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Thanks for joining us this Saturday evening. I'm Russ Mitchell, CBS News, New York. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.
Experience you can trust. CBS News.
When you visit the room store, you'll find rooms and rooms of designer coordinated